Hello students, good morning. Today we are going to read our next poem, On His Blindness, penned by John Milton. John Milton was born on 9th December 1608 and he died on 8th November 1674. He was an English poet and civil servant also in the British Commonwealth. He graduated from Christ College in 1629 and he has post-graduated from the same college in 1632. And then after completing his graduation and post-graduation, he studied privately for 6 years in his father's home at Hammersmith. He was a very avid reader. He just used to read too much. Then in 1638 he started on a tour of Italy and France, which is known as the Grand Tour of Milton, and this tour came to an end in August 1639. And after his return from this grand tour, he started writing pamphlets and prose pieces on various issues in support of the Commonwealth. And by 1652, he became totally blind. And the present poem which we are going to read is written about that blindness of Milton, which he has faced, and the death of Milton was caused by consumption. If we talk about the major works of Milton, then we can the relevant, we can say, or the more prominent, On the Morning of Christ Nativity. It was a prose pamphlet. It was published in 1629. On Shakespeare, again a prose piece, 1630. Then there were two pieces, Al Allegro and Il Penseroso, which came out in 1632. Then Lycidas, an elegy, 1637. On His Blindness, 1652. It was written in 1652, though it was published in 1673, and by Milton it was given the number 19 sonnet, but the book in which it was published, it was placed on number 16. And one more thing, the title of the poem was How My Light Is Spent. Original title by Milton was How My Light Is Spent, the opening line of the poem, but later on when it was published in 1673, then the title was changed and it was the current title, On His Blindness. Then there were two epic poems by Milton, and which has gained him the supreme femdom and supreme popularity and the supreme place in the English poetry, and they are Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. Paradise Lost came out in 1667 and Paradise Regained in 1671. Then there was one long poem, Samson Agonists, which also came out in 1671. Now, as we have talked about, that this present poem On His Blindness was written by Milton when he became totally blind, and then when he perceived his condition, that blindness, and how he was supposed to write poems, so the anguish which he feels and the solace which he gains ultimately in the latter half of the poem, that is recorded in this poem. It is a sonnet, and as we have talked about in our lecture on sonnet, that sonnet is a 14-line poem, and it has a fixed rhyme scheme, It is written in iambic pentameter lines. So all those things you will remember, and the example is here for you. And the rhyme scheme of this poem is ABBA, ABBA, CDE, CDE, means octave plus sestave, that Miltonic sonnet or the English sonnet which we call it. It is written in that form. Now when we will read this poem, then we will focus on these aspects of a sonnet also. When I consider how my light is spent ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, losed with me useless, though my soul more bent, to serve there with my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Doth good exact day labor, light denied? I fondly ask, but patience to prevent that murmur soon replies. Now, the first half of the poem, if we talk about this, first let's talk about in the sense of a sonnet. If you see at the lines, they are iambic pentameter lines, means there are 10 syllables in them. And the rhyme scheme, look at the word spent. If we suppose, okay, imagine this word or the sound of this word spent as a, है ना, ये जो साउंड है स्पेंट, एंट जो साउंड है ये हमारी ए है, हम इसको मानते हैं, सिंबल देते हैं हम इसे कि माना ये ए साउंड है ना. तो अगर ये ए साउंड है देन द नेक्स्ट साउंड इज वाइड. अब चूंकि हमारे पास जो एकमात्र साउंड आई थी अभी तक वो कौन सी थी, स्पेंट, उसको हमने ए बुलाया तो ये क्या है, बी. वाइड जो है वो बी है. लेकिन नेक्स्ट साउंड हाइड, ये क्या है, ये वही साउंड है जो इससे पहले वाली लाइन में थी वाइड में. यानी क्या हुआ, हमारी जो साउंड थी बी वही फिर से रिपीट हो रही. तो हमारी राइम स्कीम क्या है, ए बी बी ए ए. फोर्थ लाइन बेंट, फोर्थ लाइन में क्या रहा बेंट, और फर्स्ट लाइन में क्या था स्पेंट, और हमारी राइम स्कीम क्या है ए बी बी ए. यानी ए जो था वो कहाँ आ रहा है, फोर्थ लाइन में फिर से आ रहा है. और सेकंड और थर्ड लाइंस जो हैं उनका जो लास्ट वर्ड है, उनका जो एंडिंग वर्ड है, उसकी जो साउंड है वो सेम है. दिस इज द राइम स्कीम. नेक्स्ट 4 लाइंस पे अगर हम फिर से जाएंगे तो प्रेजेंट, स्पेंट, बेंट, प्रेजेंट, यानी फिर से ए, फिर से चाइड, वाइड, हाइड, चाइड, डिनाइड, है ना. यानी अगेन 2 और 3 लाइंस जो हैं वो 6 और 7 लाइंस के साथ राइम कर रहे हैं, उनके साथ वो असोनेंस में है, उनके साथ वो सेम जो साउंड है वो प्रोड्यूस हो रही थी. ये हमारी फर्स्ट 8 लाइंस की राइम स्कीम हुई, ए बी बी ए, ए बी बी ए. यानी हमारी जो ए साउंड है, स्पेंट जो साउंड है, वो हमारी फर्स्ट लाइन में है, हमारी फोर्थ लाइन में है, हमारी फिफ्थ लाइन में है और 8th लाइन में. ये जो है ये दैट इज राइम स्कीम. अगर हम आगे बात करें देन नीड, है ना, नीड. अगर हम नीड को, चूंकि ऊपर डिनाइड और प्रेजेंट दो ही तरह की जो साउंड आई थी, चाइल्ड और प्रेजेंट या स्पेंट और वाइड, उससे अलग है नीड. तो ये क्या हो गई, हमारी नई साउंड हो गई, हम इसको नाम देंगे सी. देन अगेन वी हैव द साउंड हु बेस्ट. सो अगेन बेस्ट इज ए न्यू साउंड, सो इट इज डी. अगेन स्टेट, स्टेट इज अगेन ए न्यू साउंड, सो इट इज ई, सी डी ई, है ना. आप अपनी नोटबुक में आप अपनी जो स्टडी कर रहे हैं वहाँ इन चीज़ों को हर सोनेट में राइट डाउन कर सकते हैं, ए बी बी ए, सी डी, बिकॉज इट इज़ क्वाइट इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. दिस क्वेश्चन इज जनरली आस्क्ड अबाउट सोनेट्स. देन स्पीड, है ना, हमारी जो 12th लाइन है उसमें स्पीड, और हमारी 9th लाइन में क्या था, नीड, नीड स्पीड, यानी सेम है. यानी फिर से हमारे पास सी साउंड है. फिर बेस्ट, रेस्ट, अगेन हमारे पास डी साउंड है. एंड स्टेट, वेट, अगेन हमारे पास ई साउंड है. तो हमारी जो राइम स्कीम थी इस पोएम की वो क्या है, ए बी बी ए, सी डी ई. ये राइम स्कीम है. यानी जो पोएम है उसके जो एंडिंग वर्ड्स हैं वो आपस में इस तरह से राइम करते हैं, वो आपस में इस तरह से उनका जो तालमेल है वो यहाँ हमने देखा है. So now let's talk about the poem. As I have told you earlier that the poem is written by Milton when he became totally blind. And you can think of this thing, that a person who is supposed to write something, who is supposed to create poems, who is supposed to create prose pieces, who is supposed to write pamphlets, and when he is unable to see, then how difficult it is for him to think of this thing, to face this thing. So the kind of anguish, the kind of pain, the kind of trouble which Milton faces after being blind is narrated, is recorded in this poem. And in the later 6 lines, in the octave, the first 8 lines, the poet presents his dilemma, his trouble, his condition as a blind man, and how he finds himself unable to do what he is supposed to do. And in the last 6 lines, he presents a kind of solace. He shows his faith in God. He shows his, again, this faith in God is the prime doctrine of Milton. Milton's poems are always full of this philosophy that he has a firm faith in God and all his judgments. So he says that when I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and white. He says, when I consider this thing, when I think of this thing, when I realize this thing, when I evaluate this thing, when I judge this thing, that how my light is spent, ere means before half my days. I haven't lived half of my life, and even before that, even I haven't spent half of my life, and even before the half period of my life, the light is spent. Means he was only 44 years old when his eyes have lost their eyesight. So we consider ना that we live 100 years of life, है ना, 100 साल का जो जीवन हम जीते हैं, तो उस पैरामीटर के अनुसार वो बात कर रहा है that now I haven't even touched the half of my life. I haven't reached the half mark of life, and even before that, my light is spent. I have lost my light. I have spent it totally. Now we can consider this spent in two ways. One thing is like that we have the charging batteries nowadays, or in earlier days we have those battery cells which we used to put in the torch or any lighting instrument, and when they are spent, when their energy are spent, then that cannot give us light. So that is one thing. And the second thing is this, that we have given all these facilities, these 5 sensory organs by the God, and he has given us a span of life, and he has given a span of all these organs also. If we think it in purely religious manner, then what we find, or what we have to realize is this, that we have been given this life by God, and he himself has assigned specific roles for us, as we have seen it in the Shakespearean poem, The 7 Stages of Man, that what we do here, what we act here, what we perform here, that is all assigned by him. He is the master. He has given us our specific roles, our specific strengths, and our specific weaknesses. So accordingly that, he says, the light which he has given to me, it has been all spent. Means the light, the eyesight to see the things around me was given to me by God, but he has given a fixed amount of light to me, and I have already spent that. Now the later on critics also consider this thing relating to the very great reading habit of Milton. Milton was a very voracious reader. He used to read for 16 hours a day. You can assume this thing, that perhaps the reason can be given to that his voracious reading habits, the eyesight of his has gone earlier. So he says that when I consider this thing, when I think of this thing, when I evaluate this thing, that how my light has no more, how my light has exhausted even before half of my life. I haven't spent half of my life, and even before that, the light of mine, the eyesight of mine, the light to see the world has exhausted. It has gone. It is not with me now in this dark and wide world. When I consider this thing, that how my light has been snatched away from me, how my light has been exhausted, how I am in this dark and wide world. Now, the world might seem small to us. In movies or in songs, you might have heard the lovers proclaiming that tu hi meri duniya, tu hi meri jahan hai, to that beloved only. And when you will read it later on, then you will also realize a very famous poem by John Donne, Sun Rising, in which he also proclaims this thing, that my world is this room only, my room only. Why you are disturbing me? For a lover, the whole world is in his beloved. So that is the poetic assumptions. But even in a general physical assumption, we can say that for a person, what the world means is what he sees. है ना, हमारे लिए दुनिया का मतलब क्या है? जितना हम इसे देख पाते हैं, है ना. क्योंकि अक्सर आपने अपने बड़े बुजुर्गों से ऐसा सुना होगा ना, अभी तुमने दुनिया देखी नहीं है ना, जबकि हमें लगता हमने तो बहुत कुछ देख लिया. सो व्हाट दे मीन और व्हाट इट मीन्स इन ए फिजिकल सेंस इज व्हाट, कि हमारे लिए दुनिया का मतलब क्या है? जितना हम देख पाते हैं. बट इफ यू कांट सी एनीथिंग, देन व्हाट? इट सीम्स दैट द वर्ल्ड इज वेरी वाइड एंड इट इज वेरी डार्क, बिकॉज यू कांट सी द थिंग्स. जब हम देख पाते हैं तो हमारे लिए जो दुनिया है, हमारे लिए जो होराइजन है, वो कहाँ है? 1 किलोमीटर, 2 किलोमीटर, 3 किलोमीटर, उसकी एक रेंज है. उससे वहां जब हम पहुंचेंगे तो फिर वो आगे जाएगा, एक्सटेंड होगा. लेकिन फॉर दैट मोमेंट इट इज अप टू दैट distance only. But when we go further, then it will extend further. But for a blind person, you might have seen the person who have lost their eyesight, that they wave their hands here and there in front of them. वो अपने सामने अपने हाथों को ऐसे ऐसे हिला के वो टच करने का कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन because they can't touch anything, so for them the world seems a very wide and very big dark place. And that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless. And he says that talent which is death to hide, that talent which is lodged with me. I have a talent. What talent is that? That is the poetic talent. That is the creative talent of mine, which is lodged with me. I still have that talent in me, and to hide that talent, I think it is death. Because today we know Milton. Why? Because of his poetic creations, because of his creativity. And if Milton he says, if I hide that talent, if I won't express that talent, then that is like the death of mine. It is just similar. I am no more. If that talent is no more, if I am writing no more, if I am expressing no more, then I am no more. So he says that talent which is lodged with me, the God has given me one talent, and I must use that talent. If I won't use that talent, then it is like death of mine. There is no use of living then, though my soul more bent to serve there with my Maker and present my true account. He says, though my soul, it is more bent to serve my Maker. I want to serve my Maker. Soul, my inner energies, my inner talent, my that creative powers of mine, they are more bent to serve my maker with that talent which I have. But my physical weakness, my bodily hindrances are stopping me. What can I do? My soul is more bent. From within, I am quite determined to serve my maker and present my true account. And I want to present the true account of mine towards my maker, lest returning child. Otherwise, when I will return back to him, we have that theory of our soul returning back to the god, है ना. हमारी डेथ के बाद जब हम वहाँ स्वर्ग में, नरक में, या जहाँ भी चित्रगुप्त जी के पास पहुँचते हैं, then an account will be opened of ours, है ना. हमारा एक वहाँ लेखा जोखा होता है कि आपने ये किया और ये किया. तो वो कह रहा है कि I want to give a true account of myself. Otherwise, when I will go there, then he will chide me, he will rebuke me, he will scold me. Why? Because I haven't done my duty. I haven't fulfilled my duty. He has given a talent to me and I haven't used that talent. So what he thinks is, what he thinks in his mind is what? That doth God exact day labor light and night? I fondly ask. He says, I fondly ask this question to myself. He asked this question to his soul, to his inner self only, that doth, it is archaic word, does God exact day labor light in doth. Again, let me talk something here. We have talked about that the sonnets are written in iambic pentameter lines. Iambic pentameter lines means what? That in this iamb, we use iamb meter, in which we have a unstressed followed by stress syllable. So अगर suppose यहाँ does होता तो क्या होता? ये एक stressed syllable होता. So उस stressed syllable को हटाने के लिए उसकी जगह हमें अनस्ट्रेस्ड सिलेबल यूज करना था पोएट को, इसलिए ही डथ यूज किया उसने. समझ रहे हो? आयम्बिक पेंटामीटर लाइंस जो थी, उस स्ट्रिक्टनेस को फॉलो करने के लिए द पोएट हैज टू यूज वेरियस ऑप्शंस, एंड दैट दिस यूज ऑफ आर्काइक वर्ड्स इज अमंग वन ऑफ देम. So doth God exact day labor light and night? So I fondly ask, means in a happily manner, in a fond manner, in a loving manner, I ask this question to my inner self, to my soul, that does God expect day labor from me when he himself has denied light to me? Are you understanding what he is saying? That you cannot expect the works which are supposed to be done during the daylight from a person to whom you yourself has denied the light. है ना भाई, आपको जैसे कोई भी काम है ना, सपोज अगर हम इसको सिंपल वे में बात करें, अगर हम एक लेबरर के रूप में बात करें कि मान लो आप किसी लेबरर को हायर करते हो, है ना, फसल काटने के लिए, सपोज करें हम, चूंकि वी ऑल बिलोंग टू द फार्मर कम्युनिटी, सो अगर हमने किसी को फसल काटने के लिए हायर किया किसी मजदूर को, और अगर हम उसे ये कहते हैं कि यू हैव टू डू इट इन द नाइट, रात के अंधेरे में आपको ये काम करना है, सो कैन ही डू इट? नो. एंड सपोज इवन इफ ही डज इट, देन ही विल डू इट इन अ वेरी बैड मैनर, नॉट इन दैट स्किल्ड मैनर इन विच ही इज सपोज टू डू इट. सो वो कह रहा है, दिस इज व्हाट ही इज सेइंग, दैट डज गॉड एक्जेक्ट डे लेबर? Does God expect day labor? Do he demand day labor from me? The labor which is supposed to be done in the daytime, does he want me to do something like that? When he himself has denied light to me, who has snatched my light? Who has taken away the light of mine good? Because if he has given that light to me, so the snatcher is he also. He has given that light, but not to the fullest tenure of my life. So when he himself has denied light to me, when he has not given light to me, so does he expect day labor to me? This is what I ask in a fond manner, in a very loving manner, in a very light manner. I ask this question to my inner self, to my conscience, to my soul. So this is the octave part of the poem in which Milton has presented the problem. He has presented the subject to us, that when I have lost my light, then how can I do the works which are supposed to be done in the daytime? So this is it for the day. We will discuss in next.